Hi, Sarah.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you for having me.
I know you're a busy lady with all of your own podcast episodes, and you just spoke at the wellness summit on the weekend. So I know you're super busy. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. There's something so lovely about going on other people's podcasts and getting asked questions rather than asking the question. So it's always a pleasure.
Yay. Well, you've had what most women would call the dream job in radio, but you said you felt very disconnected inside. What was the moment you realized you had lost yourself in the chase for success?
Yeah, that's a great question. So many years ago, I was a breakfast radio producer, and, for a long time, I just really wanted to be in entertainment. It was something that I had liked, and I had done a lot of acting when I was young, and I had done a few corporate jobs before I hit the job at the radio network. And I thought, oh my God, I've gotten this job. How wonderful. And it was. And I worked really hard and did a whole heap of different roles there, and then would come in really early and sit with the breakfast radio people and stay late, not get paid for any of it. Obviously my normal job, but not the early hours and the later ones, because I really wanted to learn producing. And then, one of the big bosses said to me, we've got some roles in producing. Are you interested? Which I was. And after quite a short period of time, a show that I was working on, they really saw it as something really good. And they said, we're going to move it to breakfast. And one thing about radio is the breakfast show leads the way. Okay. When you're head of the breakfast show or a producer on that is the biggest show that the station has. So this was huge, and it was their biggest station. And I thought, wow, all my Christmases have come at once. I was at the time getting paid more money than I ever had. I was doing a role I was excited about. And it was kind of very superficial, I get to be with great talent and go to parties and this and that. But as anything, things started to unfold. And one thing was, at that time in my life, I had never done really any inner work on myself. It was all chasing the external, the flashy thing, right? And, not in a bad way, but I thought that's what would bring me joy. And I didn't know any better, right? Because everything tells us that it will. We're seeing marketing and social media, and you think it will bring you joy to do all these flashy things. Anyway, so I started working in this role, and honestly, after a short period of time, I just got completely burnt out. It was 5 days a week, waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning. At the time, I had a 2 and a 4-year-old.
Oh, my goodness.
It was exhausting. And it's not one of those jobs that you can just be there for a couple of hours and, not really pay attention. You are on for the whole day. It's not a turn-off job, right? It was a very senior position. And so come the winter in Melbourne, it was 6 months into me working in that role, I just burnt out, completely burnt out. And I remember thinking how did life get like this? I am exhausted. What I thought would be a dream job is just not a dream job. I was cranky. I got the really bad case of the flu. I became really unwell. And that was kind of the moment where I was this is not what I thought it would be. And I either need to turn my life around or I'll stay as a misery guts, and that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that, because I've had moments in my career where my husband's noticed I'm stressed, I'm running from here, I'm running to that, I'm snapping at the kids, and he's like, it's not worth it. I know you want to build your career, and I know you want to find fulfillment in that, but you've got to outweigh the good and the bad. And if I'm screaming at the kids and rushing them and, always snappy, it takes a second to sit back and go, okay, what needs to change? And I think a lot of women listening who are in survival mode, what can be advice to them to get out of that drowning feeling?
That's great. So I, as I mentioned, had done no inner work. And when I got to that dark night of the soul, shocking flu, complete burnout, sitting on my couch, bawling my eyes out, having this realization that I needed to change my life, what I did and what people can do before they get to the situation where I'm in and they're
Before
burnt
they
out.
get to the burnout.
Exactly. Is to start to do the inner work. So for me, I started reading everything I could on personal development. So the mind-body connection. I started to learn a lot about Buddhism because that was of interest. I wanted to study happiness, and I'm a mindset coach. So for me, it was understanding the mind and how if you really are able to harness it, everything else will fall into place. And because I was in this state of desperation, when I was reading the books or listening to the podcasts about mindset or Buddhism, whatever it was, I absolutely started doing everything I was hearing.
Okay.
So, for example, someone can listen to you and I today and they can go, yeah, okay, that sounds great, but they will make no change in their life. I made all the changes because I was desperate. I started meditating every single day. I started visualizing. I started watching my mind. Conscious awareness is a big part of the work that I do. I knew that if I was going crazy with my mind being out of control, then nothing was going to, be I was never going to be happy from that. So I started watching my mind. I started researching on how we change negative thoughts into positive ones, everything. And after a short period of time, my life started changing.
Wow.
And that's the key. You need to actually do the
Action
work.
them.
Right.
Yeah.
And not just once or twice. Like, for example, with meditation, it's just been, I would say that was like the key thing. And I continue to do that most days. You can't do meditation once a week and think that you're going to get a result from it, right? It's like any habit. You have to keep on keeping on. And, the first couple of times you do something, I'm not going to pretend that it's fun.
Yeah.
You're learning and it's hard, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And that's when you see change. And when you see the change, it inspires you to do more of it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I think for women, like thinking about, okay, there's all of these books and all of these, affirmations, meditation, exercise, cold plunge, sauna. There's so much out there now that it can almost become overwhelming at where to start. So if you had to pick 3 things, what would they be? Like meditation?
Meditation for sure. And what I say to people is if you feel like you just don't know what you're doing, there are so many beautiful meditation teachers out there. There are every state in Australia, and I would assume anywhere really in the world, most places would have decent meditation teachers. So you can learn through that, or you can go on an app. There are free ones out there and download a meditation. I have some on my website that are like 10, 15 minutes.
Great.
And they are just the beautiful way to like slow the mind down. So that's the first thing.
Okay, meditation.
The second thing is conscious awareness. I write about this in my book. Why is this so significant? Is because if you don't know what you're saying and you don't know what you're thinking and you don't know your actions, you can't change them. So if your mind is out of control and you're constantly thinking like, my life is crap, I'm not good enough to do this, I could never do that, that person doesn't like me, whatever those negative thoughts are, your emotions are going to be ones that are uncomfortable and sad and negative too. By the time you're feeling a really uncomfortable, sad, angry emotion, your mind has already thought the thought that has made you feel like that, right? The feeling comes second, the thought comes first. But most of the time, we don't watch our thoughts, so we don't even know what we're thinking. Yeah. So you need to start monitoring your thoughts. And one thing I say to people is like, this is an easy thing to do, is if you have a negative thought that comes up, replace it with a better feeling thought. And how we do this is know already what your better feeling thought is going to be. So say, for example, it might be your kids or your partner or this podcast, whatever brings you joy, know what it is. So say, for example, it was your kids. Okay, the negative thought comes up, you replace it with the thought of your kids. And you do that, you could be 60 to 70 times a day. But we know now through neuroscience that the brain is able to change and rewire itself up until the day we die. I mean, it was honestly not that long ago that scientists thought by age 30 our brains were set and we could not change them. But now neuroscience, neuroplasticity, we know that the brain is able to rewire itself. We just need to know how to use it, right? And when we're changing the negative thought and replacing it with a better feeling thought, then it will slowly move to the better feeling thought on its own rather than the negative thought. But it takes a while for that to happen. So we have to be watching those thoughts,
so,
right?
for example, if I was thinking, okay, I'm a bad mom and bad at my career, I'm trying to juggle both of them, but, I'm doing bad at both. What's a thought that I could replace that with?
So with a situation like that, I would say there are a few things you can do with kind of these more like ruminating thoughts. So say you're thinking that you're a bad mum. So first thing to do is challenge the thought. Do you know for sure that you're a bad mum? Have people come up to you? Have your children said to you that you're a bad mum? I would say 90% of the time that is completely untrue. It's just this thought that you're having, right? And then say, the second thing is this also, because a lot of the time, sometimes those ruminating thoughts that go over and over, they happen at nighttime, we can't sleep, and then they are at 2:33 in the morning. Can I do anything about the thought? Give yourself agency over it. Can I spend more time with my kids? Can I do things to really make myself realize that, no, I'm not a bad mum. I'm just working hard, and that's what happens in life, right? We need to earn money. We want to follow something that gives us purpose and is a passion. So then you're giving yourself agency because you can action it, right?
Yeah.
And then I say the third thing is this. If you know for sure that you're a bad mum, or your kids are telling you that you're a bad mum, you did something that, made you definitely think that you're a bad mum, and, I'm sure that's not the case. But if you know for sure that's true, you go into radical acceptance. Okay, in this situation, I didn't do something that maybe I should have. I can fix it next time. And you make peace with the thought, okay, everyone makes mistakes, but that's okay because I have tomorrow, and then I can change that. And then because you have accepted that, it's like you're allowed to move away. You don't keep ruminating over that negative thought in your head.
Oh, that really makes sense.
Yeah. And those are, the mind, which is my area of expertise, it is the most important thing that we have. And honestly, it controls everything. I believe that the mind controls the body to an extent, right? And we know that from the mind-body connection. So meditation, watching your mind. And another thing I talk about, which is really important and actually saved me, was breathing. Because when I've again have a chapter on this in my book, why it's so important is no one can take it away from us. It doesn't cost us anything, but it can regulate our heart and our nervous system. So I want to give you an example. For a long, I don't know why this happened, but for a long period of time, I hated flying because I got very claustrophobic, right? It was the idea, and this is quite common, that you get on the flight and you can't get out.
Yeah.
Right? Where am I going?
A lot of us have had that feeling,
yeah,
right?
where it's like, those doors shut and you feel your heart just start pounding. And for me, I travel a lot for work, and my work, fortunately was getting busier and busier. And a lot of the time by myself when I travel, which is more scary because if I have someone with me, like I feel a little bit more comfortable. And I was like, am I going to go the rest of my life and stay in Melbourne and not go interstate where there are great opportunities, or overseas because I'm scared to get on a plane? I tried psychotherapy, hypnotherapy, psychology, everything. Yeah. Nothing worked. Nothing. And then one day someone said to me, why don't you use your breath? And I remember thinking like, what? Like, are you crazy? Like, I've tried everything. Yeah. What's my breath going to do? And I learned about box breathing. Okay, this has been an absolute game changer. Okay. So if you're ever had panic attacks, if you're anxious, maybe you're doing a talk, maybe you have to speak to a colleague about something, you're in a situation where you are just nervous or panicky, this will allow yourself to feel at ease because it makes your heart rate completely change. So I'll show you what it is. So it's 4 breaths in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the most important breath is the breath where you breathe out. Okay. You exhale. You have to do that very slow. 1, so you breathe in and then 1, 2, 3, 4, hold for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you do that over and over, but you have to do it properly. Okay. So you breathe in, as I said, hold, but the most important is the breath out. breathe for 4, hold for 4, over and over. And I swear within probably 2 minutes, you notice that this fast heart starts to go slow and you regulate your nervous system.
Oh, wow.
That is the thing that has saved me going on planes, and now it's fine. Now it's fine.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me to my next question about mums that would get anxiety, because I'm a very calm, mellow person. Like, I'm just very mellow. But since having kids, I think of the worst situation.
Yeah.
Like, they're walking down the stairs, I'll visualize like them falling or something bad happening. And it really has, I don't like to say anxiety a lot. Like, we try to not say that in our household, but it makes me feel my heart's going faster. Is that something that can help with mummies?
Oh, absolutely.
That could be feeling
any situation that you feel panic or anxiety, you just breathe through it. The box breathing. It is like I said, you don't have to call someone, you don't have to do anything. If you're by yourself and you have nothing else except for your thoughts and you need to get out of a situation that you're feeling panicky or nervous, you just breathe. It's interesting as well because, you mentioned I was just at Wonderlust, and there were a few people going on stage that were a bit nervous. And so we were teaching them how to breathe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was beautiful actually to watch.
That.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about raising resilient kids. What does that look like in your home? I feel like they're so lucky to have a mum like that knows so much.
I need to tape you saying that and I will play that to them.
Because for us, I feel like we are, we listen to podcasts or we read books, but there's so much different advice out there. So I'd love to hear what that looks like in your home and how you help your kids believe in themselves when they're lacking confidence, because that's a huge thing in my household. Like, I really try to build that confidence in my kids, and they're singing and they're dancing. And even at my dad's birthday yesterday, they all grabbed the microphone and they all wanted to do speeches where like all the other kids were very quiet. So I think I've really, focused on raising confident kids, because I don't want them feeling, other kids can put things in their head. I want them to really know their core and to be able to, be confident in themselves. So what does that look like in your home?
Well, I mean, we all try our best, and I have to, say that I do not get it right a lot of the time, but I obviously, I never sort of put them down or tell them that they could do better. I'm always encouraging them with what they want to do, even if it's, obviously not something dangerous or silly, that's something, that would harm them. But I'm always encouraging them to do the best that they can. So one thing is that we like to do with our kids is, if they want to do something, it might be an activity or something like that, I say that you need to try it out for a period of time. I find that like kids like doing this and then they want to give it up after a term, try something else, give it up. And it's like, no. If you pick a sport or acting or whatever it is, you need to do that for the whole year to really give it a go. That not only builds resilience, but it also shows them that if they're doing something, they need to follow it through. When I was young, my parents they were like that with me. Like, I wasn't getting away with anything and they weren't strict. But in adult life, it has made me realize that if I say yes to something, then I'm going to be a person of my word and keep doing that thing, right? And I'm not the type, if I say, for example, I'm going to come on your podcast, if I say I am, I 100% will. I don't pull out. I push through things that might feel uncomfortable because I've said yes to something, and I think that shows a really good. It shows like a really good side of someone, and it allows you to build this resilience within yourself, that you're not just like flimsy and pulling out of arrangements or meetings, and even just knowing that as a kid, it really has gone into adult life and allowed me, I suppose, to be more professional. The only thing is then I expect that from other people and you don't have it mirrored. But that's one of the things that we teach within our kids, and we're just careful, like you are, about the words that we say within the house. Even something like hate. I can't stand that word. I really like, if I catch my kids going like, I hate that person, I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You do not hate anyone. Do not use that word, right? So I think the way that we speak, and it goes back to that conscious awareness thing, like what is the language that you're saying to your children? because they're going to mirror that. And then be careful about the language that they're saying too. I teach my daughter, because you know what it's like with girls, a lot about gossip.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, I mean, she's only in grade 5 now, but I've even, it starts in like grade 3. And this idea of gossip came up. And I mean, this is my belief, but I taught her about the law of reciprocity. What you put out comes straight back to you, right? And the idea, and this actually in psychology as well, it's the triangulation theory. I didn't give her this theory. I just told her that if you say,
be a smart,
she didn't. I didn't give her that, but I'll give this to you and the people listening. First thing is what I gave to her is, don't gossip about other people. And if you don't gossip about other people, they're not going to gossip about you, right? The people that gossip a lot are going to be gossiped about because that's just what happens. So she understood that. And she became quite conscious of it. She would come home and say to me, Mummy, these people, they were gossiping so much, saying mean stuff. And I said, did you say anything? And she said no. And I thought, wow, that's a really good start. But when we're talking about the triangulation theory, and this is for every adult listening, is that we know in psychology it works like this. If someone comes to you and they're gossiping about someone else, and there's a big difference between gossip and someone that's just got an issue and they don't know what to do and they're actually asking for advice and there is like a nice nature about it, to someone that's just jealous usually or just saying something very mean and malicious. When someone's gossiping like that to you, if you engage in that and you start to gossip back, we know that there is a 90% chance that that person will then leave you and gossip about you. And what I say to people is this: if you're conscious of that and you want to stop engaging in that and you choose that you won't gossip, then those gossipy people, they're not going to come to you, because a gossipy person doesn't want to speak to someone that's not gossiping back. That's like their worst nightmare. Yeah. So then the people that you start to attract in your life are not gossipers, like they're not gossipy. And that is such a beautiful thing. Like, you notice that your energy is so much better when you don't have people like that in your life.
Yeah. No,
so that's something very much I instill in the kids. I've got to admit, my son is not like that at all. So I never really had to tell him about it. I feel like that's just his way of being. But with my daughter, that's something that I made sure she knew from a young age. And honestly, I feel that she does carry that along. Yeah,
I'll have to teach my daughter about that, because I've got a 14-year-old stepdaughter too, and she's right in the thick of the different girls and the gossip and the friendship groups and finding her kind of circle. So I'll definitely pass that along. Sarah, you've interviewed some of the world's biggest names: Matthew McConaughey, Mel Robbins. What is the common thread you've noticed between these fully fulfilled people? What's something they have in common? I want to know.
Yeah, that's a really great question. A lot of them, and usually it's always the biggest names, are like so down to earth. They are so kind. Like, they're not demanding or asking for much. Very, what you see is what you get. Nearly every single big name, I reckon, that I've interviewed is like that. And it's very inspiring to think that we think that these huge stars can be divas. And I feel like the ones that are really at the top are not. And there's this real authenticity about them. Such authentic people, like you mentioned Mel Robbins and Matthew McConaughey. Oh, they were exactly how I thought they would be. Love. So kind, so sweet, chatty, wanting to know about me, not just coming on in the interview and not having any kind of like chit chat before. Both chit chatted before, both really, eager to know about my life. Lovely, lovely people. And I think that kindness just goes a really long way, and it's something that we can give to everybody, and it's free. And it will make the other person, like made me feel happier when they were kind and nice. But it's something that we can all do in our daily lives. So, yeah, I think authentic and kind is how I would describe both of them, and a lot of the ones that I've interviewed that are, quite big.
I love that. That's really great. In your book, you talk about mastering of your interior life. What does that actually look like day to day as a mum, juggling work, the kids, and self-growth?
Yeah. Well, as I said, the conscious awareness piece is that big part, watching your thoughts, your actions, what you're saying internally, externally. We talked about gossip, but also the negative self-talk, like making sure you're on top of all that is a big deal. And, when it comes to kids, as far as like inner and outer worlds, I've got to do this better, but it's good advice. Your child is going to mirror what you're doing. So there's one thing to say, don't go on your phone, and then to your child, and then you're on your phone the whole time. And I am so guilty of that. And the worst is when your child says, can you put down your phone? And you feel terrible, goodness. Right? So, I mean, that's something I've got to get better at. Don't tell your child to do something that you do. That's one thing. But the second thing is this: when you do spend time with your children, and even if you don't have the same amount of time maybe as someone that doesn't work, make sure that time is quality time. So that is the most important thing for me. Even if it's like a couple of hours a day, an hour a day, maybe you only have half an hour a day if you're working really hard. Whatever it is, put your phone aside and just be so engaged with your child. That's all they need. I mean, they could have a mother or a father that's there the whole time, but they're completely unengaged, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So make sure that you're totally engaged with them with the time that you're there for them. I think that's something that I have learned and I try to do. And, I really don't get it right. I'll tell you, this story just came from, I think 3 or 4 days ago with my daughter, and it made me feel awful. I was putting her to bed and she seemed fine, but then she started getting a bit teary, and I said, what's wrong? And she said, Mum, I was thinking today that you're the only mother that hasn't come to Kitchen Garden.
Oh.
And it was heartbreaking, right? Absolutely heartbreaking, because they had Kitchen Garden that day, and one of her best friend's mums was there. And she'd asked me the day before if I could come, and I mean, 1 day's notice, and having a busy working life, I couldn't. And I said, I am so sorry that you feel like that, and I wish so much that I could come. I'll put my name down, and I knew in 2 weeks my life was going to be a little bit less hectic. But what happened? I then couldn't sleep that night because all I was thinking about is like how guilty I felt. And the last thing I ever wanted to do was make my daughter feel sad. And then, of course, she slept fine, woke up the next day, happy as Larry. It's like, with kids, they just say things and then they're over them. But not with us. We sit there like just stewing on it. So then I put my name down for Kitchen Garden. I actually texted her only today because I got the confirmation that I could go. And I said to her, I'll be there in 2 weeks. And she wrote back, yay. Aww. So we don't get it perfect the whole time. I feel terrible that I haven't been there. I don't want to upset her. But she told me, I made the change. I'll be there in 2 weeks. That will fill her cup. It will fill my cup. Yeah. And it is what it is. She gets a mother that is living her dream, who's got purpose in her life, who's giving back. That's inspiring for my kids as well. That's a huge part. And they get a good side of me because I am doing that. Yeah. Not an angry mum who is resentful and feels that they've given everything away for their kids and hasn't been able to live for them. So, it's a hard juggle.
Yeah, no, that leads me to, I wanted to ask you about mum guilt. And that's like a lot of the answer right there, because I think that's something that never goes away.
Never.
Ever. It will linger there, but it's kind of how you look at the situation or how you deal with it yourself. So I think that's really amazing how you said you get to show up for your kids like with your cup full and you're happy and you're not snappy and you're not grumpy with them and you feel fulfilled yourself. And then you know what? You made it work 2 weeks later. So I think that's a great way. Is there any other tips for mummies that are really struggling with the mum guilt? Like they're working that 9 to 5, they're missing out on lots of, things with their kids. Is there anything else? Because I think that's a great tool.
I think it's just like make time for your child, and I do need to book this in. My daughter's like, can we have like a mummy daughter weekend away somewhere? Nice. And I said to her, 100% when I get back from this very busy period, we will book something in together where you and I can go away. So just book in little things, even if it's like, you don't have the time to do that. Maybe it's just you have an afternoon to do something special with your kids. And also if you've got a couple of kids, I think spending individual time with them.
It's so hard though.
I know.
With the 5.
I mean, you've got 5. I only
say
have 2.
to my husband, I'm like, there's not enough time, because I've heard a lot of people say to like when you are with your kids, be engaged, be off your phone, have that like quality time, even if it's like 20 minutes. I'm like, oh my goodness. And they're all so different. So it's so exhausting.
I know, especially if you've got 5 kids. I mean, maybe you need to pick a different day of the week if you ever have that time off to be able to spend it with them. But I think as well, like one-on-one time with them is
really important.
And especially I have a girl and a boy, so what they like is a little bit different. So I think spending the one-on-one time is really important. And one thing I've learned through a lot of child educators that I've had on my podcast is they need someone in their life. If they have a mother and a father that works, it's very important that they have that, they call it like a lighthouse. And it's like someone that they can talk to. So it might be a grandparent, it might be an uncle and auntie or an auntie, it might be a teacher at school. They need one person. They need one person. So if you're unavailable or, you're not there, they just need that one person. And I think that's very important advice, because it's hard for kids to navigate life when they don't have anyone to talk to, and you don't want the one person to be a friend. Because that's their age.
So like a role
it needs
model,
to be older
person.
Someone that they trust. That's an important thing.
Oh, wow. Okay, Sarah, I have a question for you. Looking back at the women lying on the kitchen floor, dizzy, burnt out, what is a piece of advice you'd give to her?
I would say it's going to be okay. It really is. Another phrase that is just, it's so beautiful, is this too shall pass.
Oh, I love that.
And life is going to be so hard at times. That's life, hey? We have times where there's ups and there's horrible downs. But like anything, it too shall pass. The highs will pass, the lows will pass. You just got to get through it. There's this beautiful quote by Winston Churchill, and it's like, if you find yourself walking through hell, keep going, and if you find yourself like burnt out, lying on the ground, muster everything you can to get up and just keep going. But the thing you need to do is also, you got to fill your own cup, right?
Yeah.
Putting it out for it. What I get from a lot of mothers is, I'm just giving so much to everyone else and I don't have anything for me, right?
Yeah.
And that's like goes back to the first part of our conversation, why meditation is so unbelievably important, because you're actually filling your own cup with things like that. Do something that brings you joy. Maybe it's a Pilates class or a walk with a friend or a coffee or a wine with a girlfriend. Whatever it is, carve out time to do something that brings you joy. It might be walking in nature. I mean, there are so many different things. It doesn't need to take a lot of time, but make sure you're doing things on a regular basis that fill your cup.
Do you think if there is someone listening thinking, I just don't have that time, or they feel guilty for taking that time? Because I used to feel like that.
Yeah.
Now I will say, I'm going tennis, watch the kids, or I'm going for a facial, watch the kids. I know how important it is, and I know that I come back fully recharged to my kids and it's filled my cup, and I see myself being less grumpy and cranky, and I am a better mum and a better wife. But it took me a bit of time to get there and not feel the guilt. I would rush to leave, and no, I can't stay and chat, like the kids are waiting. I would always be constantly rushing.
Yes.
So to that mama that's just having that full of guilt while taking, that half an hour to herself, is there anything she can do, even with her mind, to kind of, move it around and reframe it?
I'll tell you this. If you are depleted and unhappy, you're going to show up terribly for your kids and your partner and the people in your life. Who wants to be like that? The snappy mum? That's awful. We've all done that before. You feel dreadful, right? When you are taking that time out to fill your cup, you're replenished and you then show up as the best version of yourself. So when you reframe it in your mind that I am doing this not to be selfish, but to actually just be able to be the best version of me so I can show up for the people I love as the best version of me, then it allows that guilt to completely dissipate.
Even changing that in your mind,
Yeah.
how there's two opposites, how you can look at a situation completely different is crazy. That brings me to the hat I gave to you. Selfish is not a dirty word.
It's not at all.
It's not. Sarah, I want to end this podcast on a little note. I've screen recorded this from your podcast, actually.
How
and
fun.
I listened to this. I have to, I'm not going to cry. I listened to this and I just cried my eyes out.
Oh God,
but I'm not going to cry. But I think it's a great little message to end the podcast for my listeners.
We're always in a rush. Rushing the next milestone, rushing to the next version of ourselves that we believe will finally be enough. In that rush, something quietly slips through our fingers. The beauty of what's right in front of us, the ordinary days. Life moves fast, too fast sometimes. One moment you're walking your child into their first day of school, then you blink and suddenly you were sitting at their graduation. One moment you're building your career and then you look back and you realize that the years you wished away were the very years that shaped you. We think happiness lives somewhere bigger and shinier and more impressive. The truth is, when people look back, it's always the simple things that they really miss most. The shared dinners, the drives with music playing, the quiet moments on the couch when nothing much happened, except everything important was happening. Maybe this is the lesson. The point of life is not to collect milestones like trophies, but to soak in the days that pass between them, to really listen when someone is speaking instead of half scrolling on our phone, to breathe in the air of an afternoon walk and realize this is what being alive feels like.
Sarah, I've listened to it 4 times now, and every time I cry.
I'll tell you why.
Every time.
You're so
Usually
divine.
when you listen to things
Yes,
a few
I know
times,
you get
it kind
used
of
to
wears
it.
off. Not with me.
I'll tell you why I keep thinking about this, because my son is turning 13 in December. And it's just when your child becomes a teenager, and for me, I'm Jewish, this is bar mitzvah. This is my child's about to have a bar mitzvah. It's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And I went into meditation and, similar to you now, I started bawling. I started bawling my eyes out because I thought, my little boy has become a man, and he physically looks like one, and he is changing because he's 13. And I started thinking about the times where it was hard, and I did wish it away then, right? It's this is hard, and they're little, and this and that, and but the same with that piece that you just played is also with parents, right? They're getting older. And you think about, geez, how much longer do I even have? And that is heartbreaking too. It's the idea that life moves very fast, and when we're always chasing the bigger thing and bigger and better, and then we get to this stage in our life where it's just all over, right? And all those things we wished away, they're not there anymore, right? And people on their deathbed always talk about this, or if you lose your health or whatever it is, all you want is the craziness of the house with the 5 kids and the laughing and giggling and the mess. You do anything to have that back, right? Yeah. And so when I did that episode, it was really this idea of the gift of the ordinary day, because we wish away the ordinary, right? Yeah. We're like, oh, it's boring, but we're always trying to get there. But where is there?
Yeah.
We never arrive.
Yeah.
Because we've arrived already.
Yes. I love that. Love that. I've got that saved to my phone, and I feel like if I'm, feeling overwhelmed or rushing and this and that, I just kind of switch off. And I feel like I've become really good. Like my husband says, it's a skill I have actually. In a very stressful situation, I can be quite mellow. And
that's a great skill.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the fresh air or the moment, or I'm kind of laughing at the situation. Like if it's my 4-year-old and she's having a tantrum and it's in front of all these people and it's absolutely craziness, I can kind of just sit there and be like, this is going to pass, I won't be looking after a 4-year-old again that's having a tantrum. This is kind of the last ones. So I'm quite mellow in that
Yeah.
sense. And it's goes back to the mind with just reminding yourself, because it's easy to feel like this and go, okay, I'm going to be really grateful for every moment and, you know, go for a walk with my kids and just enjoy the moment. It's really easy to then kind of be in a situation and kind of forget
Yes.
that. And then you're back in the chaos
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, like, you know, can someone help me with the kids, or can you pick up, or, you know,
Yeah.
so really training my mind to go back and think of that message is
Totally.
something that I'm personally working on, because I can be great for a little bit and then I'm like screaming at the kids. I'm like, oh, where did that message
Yeah.
go now, when I'm, you know, telling the kids to get in the car
Yeah.
for school.
And it's so easy, right? That's like we forget. So I think it's so important, exactly like what you're saying, to come back to it. I mean, even for me, this is such a busy period in my time, in my life for work. And I was like sitting, I had to give a keynote. I was actually in the Gold Coast last weekend giving a keynote, and I was on the plane and I was like, oh my God, I actually have so much stuff in the next 3 weeks. And I could feel myself getting like a little bit nervous. And then I just broke it all down and I thought, you know what? This stuff is amazing that I'm doing. I mean, what a privilege. And instead of clumping it all together, I was like, go do the keynote, then come back the next weekend, do this beautiful work for Wanderlust, and then start my tour after that. These are things that I've always wanted to do. How lucky am I that I'm doing them? And it just made that anxiety dissipate, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the same goes with children and the chaos of it, you changing your mindset to understand like, this is only a short blip in time. And, you know, like me now, I've got a 10 and a 12-year-old, and I think I see people with toddlers and all I want to do is take them home.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm like, I wish I had a toddler again. I really feel like that. I'm just not going to have another child because it's, you know, it's just not where I am in life. I've got my 2 and I'm happy with that. But I miss that. I really actually do miss that.
No, I can see that. And you know, in the madness, the funny thing, I'm trying to convince my husband to get the snip, right?
Yeah.
And I've kind of convinced him now. It's been years of a chat with him, and I'm, you know, telling the pros and the cons, and I want to go off birth control. It's not good for us and our hormones, and I'm educating him. But now that I've kind of convinced him, I'm like, but do I want? But what if I want another baby amongst the chaos and the screaming? And I'm like, but what if? It's like when you can't have something, or you're kind of done with something, then you kind of look at it, oh, should I? So I totally get that. Seeing a toddler or a baby, you know, you can get a bit clucky. But I think obviously I'm quite busy. So are you. So that's done for us. But I think it's just, you know, those moments that go so fast. So
Don't
with my
take them
youngest,
for granted.
Every moment that happens now, I'm kind of like, it's the last. She's the baby. I think that's why she's actually so sassy and so demanding, is because I kind of just let her do whatever she wants and give her whatever she wants, because it is the last.
One thing I want to say as well, which I used to do a lot and I've really started changing my mind, is don't sweat the small stuff. There is so much small stuff that comes up with kids, and you know, little things that happen, and we can get so worked up about it. But remember, it's like a blip, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know, something happening at school, or them not doing something right, or getting into trouble, or this or that. We like make it into this whole thing in our mind, or even it might be from a work perspective. Things don't go our way. You can get so angry and annoyed. It's, you know, really in the scheme of life, is this a big deal? This is what I always go back to. No, it's not. It's not such a big deal. You know, I've only realized this the more I've got into having my own business, is like I like controlling things and making sure they're perfect. And that's just not going to happen, right? In every piece of your work. And I always say to myself, when I feel myself getting like upset or, you know, let down by someone, I think, is this a big deal? No, not really.
Yeah.
And can I tell you?
I love that.
I would say like 99.9% of the time it is never a big deal. It's always some kind of small stuff, and then you just let it pass.
Yeah.
You know, the same with children. Like, this is so not a big deal. Let's just let it pass, right?
I love that. That's such a nice way to end the episode, Sarah. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to listen back to this because you gave such amazing advice, and I was about to like write down notes, and I'm like, oh wait, this is recorded. I can just listen back to this. But one thing that I'm definitely going to do is look into meditation. It's something I've wanted to do for so long, but I just really have to put in the time. And I think it's amazing that you even said there's like 10-minute little things
Yeah.
that you can do, even implementing that, and then 10 minutes a day, you know, like over an hour a week. That's something I'm really going to take from it. But I think a lot of women will love to listen in and take the advice from you, Sarah. So thank you so much for coming in today.
I love this conversation so much. Thank you so
Sorry
much for
crying.
having me.
That video, I'm telling you.
I
Every
love
time.
that. No, I love that it resonated a lot.
Yeah,
It means
really
a
did.
lot.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.